Again, thanks everyone for joining us today to learn how to maximize your investment and post-event potential. I'm Dan Turnbull. I'm the business development rep here at WorkerBee TV. You may have worked with us in the past. Maybe you're working with us currently, or you've talked to one of my colleagues, Dan Stevens or Marcus Slate. We love helping associations solve problems around member value and revenue. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to work with you in the future if we're not currently working with you now. So who is WorkerBee TV if you haven't had a chance to work with us? We're the leading digital agency driving partnership growth. We combine and create seamlessly integrating valuable digital content, member-centric platforms, and innovative monetization tools. So what does that mean? We're going to help you identify your digital engagement challenges. We're going to help you create engaging content, including videos to articles. We have an easy-to-use platform that helps deliver all that great content and empowers you to grow your audience through content creation, increase member engagement, and boost your revenue streams. So as we get this webinar started, I thought it'd be helpful to start with a question. So I'm going to also start with a question and move a poll here. So let's launch this poll. Okay, so we know that associations, they're facing multiple challenges right now, and we're going to touch on what we believe is one of the biggest ones today. But first, I want to hear from you. So what problems or challenges is your association currently facing? So go ahead and jump on that in the poll there. Give me a few seconds.
Hey, Dan, all three questions are showing, so you might want to have all three answered.
Sure. So go ahead if you want to take a second and answer them now, and then we'll just readdress them as we move through the webinar. We're just going to give you a few more seconds there. All right, so we're getting some answers there. We'll give you a few more seconds and then we'll end the poll, and then we can address the results as we work through them. All right, I'm just going to end it here in 5 seconds. Move this off my screen. All right, so thanks so much for answering those. Our hope one day is that we're going to have helped solve all your problems. There's going to be no more hills to climb, but we aren't there yet. We haven't solved all those issues yet. So the challenge that we've chosen to address today typically presents itself in two problems. One, old or poor content, which could also be positioned as poor member value. So by not staying relevant or keeping up with trends, members are going to feel like you don't listen to them or you don't understand. And if you aren't providing great member value, then your members are going to wonder, why am I here? The second is budget or expertise or even capacity is another way to describe it. The gap in budget makes it difficult to do anything new. And the struggle can bounce back and forth between not having the money that you need to create the content or not having that content to help drive that revenue. So on top of that, the capacity or expertise needed to create great content can be difficult for associations as staff and members they get a little older. And now to clarify, this isn't regarding the knowledge behind that content or within the association. This is about staying relevant to how your members are consuming that content. We all know that you're all the experts in that industry. So if you haven't started investing in the next generation of members yet, that can be a problem that's even more difficult to solve as we move forward. So don't just take our word for it. Our friends at MemberBoat had a similar thought, and they decided to create a survey for associations to see what the numbers are actually saying. So they conducted a survey starting in 2022. It's wrapped up, and the number of associations lacking budget increased over that time from 63% to 71%. So post-pandemic, when associations need to generate revenue and create content more than ever, over 70% don't have that money to do so. So that is definitely an issue. Along with that, there's employee reluctance that's seen an increase from 10 to 24%, which indicates that associations, their inability to stay relevant during this increased digital transformation. So what does that really mean? We've got a generation that's looking for, or even in some cases have been born into this digital experience, and staff don't have the time to keep up with what's relevant. They don't have the capacity to learn, or maybe they're simply at a stage where they don't want to learn about it anymore. So again, big hurdle there. So what's at stake? What are the risks? What if we do nothing? Well, if you don't provide easy access to information the members want, they're going to find it elsewhere. We mentioned that earlier. Whole new generation of members, they'll look and they'll find what they need. And so that lost membership is going to create lost revenue. And if you're an association that relies really heavily on member dues, this can be incredibly devastating. Plus, if you're losing members because you're not providing strong member value, it's going to be incredibly difficult to recruit those new members. So your association continues to shrink and eventually you just don't matter anymore. No one wants that. So what's the solution? There is a solution. What is it? The key is it's a great content strategy. A great content strategy is going to help you create strong content, which is going to lead to improved member engagement, recruitment. It creates avenues to generate additional revenue through sponsorship as well. So how can you do that? How can you be efficient? How can you maximize your efforts, all while finding a place to capture the majority of this content? The good news is it's at your annual event. So your annual event, they're like belly buttons, right? Everybody has one. Your annual event or conference is the perfect location to capture quality content that's filled with potential learning and engagement opportunities. So it's a content goldmine. Commonly, you're going to use your annual event or conference for your annual focus or your strategic initiative. And with sponsors already at this event, it's going to provide a unique opportunity to capture content and sponsorship dollars all at the same time. Now, keep in mind, this is simply the starting off point, what we're talking about today. This isn't the finish line. This is just simply a great place to start. So let's take a second. We'll go back to the polls. I'm not quite sure how to open up these polls. So let's take a second to address our second question. What percentage of membership attends your annual conference? Got to go to my third window there. Hold on
Just
here.
people put it in the chat, Dan, if you
Yeah,
want.
you can drop it in the chat, or I can also share the results. I could find my mouse. This is the problem with too many.
There you go. It's sharing.
What does it say, Dan? Because I can't seem to see it. You guide me.
It's a bar chart, so it's not showing me an actual number. So maybe we could just have people put the percentage of their membership that attends the annual conference in the chat.
That'd be great.
So we're seeing 30, 50, 25. Those are actually pretty healthy numbers. The average is, when last time ASAE did a study on this, the average was around 15%. So it really depends on whether you're a corporate or a individual membership model. Though obviously in an individual, those numbers are usually lower, but 20 to 50%, which is great. Almost half.
And that's fantastic. And we hear that from time to time regarding those numbers. For us, it's definitely a question that we're always asking when we're meeting with our partners and clients. So what we see on average is usually around 15 to 20. So for those that are above that, fantastic, you're doing great work. Always more good work to do. So the content at your event is informative and valuable both during and after your event. So great, you have it during your event. What about after? Well, with proper planning, you can identify the content you need as well as the content you want early and create content that keeps engagement strong on your website long after your event's done. Now, this strategy allows you to reach, in this case, that additional 80%. But if you're at 50, same thing, 50% of that membership that weren't able to attend the event, plus all those non-members that you're still trying to reach and they want to learn about you. So there's still lots and lots of value there. So why are your conferences and events great places to capture content and revenue? Well, like I said, they're filled with quality content that's overflowing with potential learning and engagement opportunities. It's ground zero for all your strong member-centric content. You've got impressive keynotes, a theme around a central focus or strategic initiative, and your events are already primed with your sponsors as well, which is where the revenue for this program is going to be generated. plus all your parent content, right? The content that we're going to build off of, that we're going to unpack later, is right at your fingertips. So you've got your keynotes, your strategic initiatives, your key stakeholders, your best sponsors, your member evangelists, the whole band's there. So why not capitalize on this opportunity? But how? How do you act on that? What steps can you take to make this a success? Well, you've got to frame out the what, the why, and the how, right? A framework helps you maximize your event for content creation and monetization in two ways. One, it's going to help you identify content and revenue opportunities well ahead of your event that services both your members and your sponsors. And the second is by then capturing that content at your conference, you can leverage it all year long. And this is where we help. This is where our expertise comes into play. So your sponsors, they're always looking for new opportunities to get in front of your members. And by identifying that best content, this is going to uncover the best revenue options for your sponsors. And with your sponsors at your conference already, this is going to give you an opportunity to position them as thought leaders and innovators, helping you create additional revenue streams at your event, which we're going to touch on in a few slides here. So by making this part of your strategic plan in the beginning, you allow time to sell your at-event sponsorship, which allows you to build a team that's appropriately sized and can be scaled if needed. And by planning and generating this revenue at your event, you can also capture that additional content that we're going to talk about during your event for little to no cost, because you've already got that team in place. So they're already there. Again, it's just about planning strategically. So we know that this content is informative, it's valuable, both during and after your event. There's incredible opportunities to use it to increase awareness, grow your membership, drive traffic, long after your event's done. So the third question, which we've been through here, and you can put the information in the chat as well, would be helpful. What content are you already capturing or creating at your annual event? Think about this for a second, because it's probably bigger than you think. Are you already capturing your keynotes? Are you capturing some content for testimonials, B-roll for next year's promo video? Start thinking about that, and I think you'll realize just how much content is really at your fingertips out of the gate. So I'm just going to check the chat. Photos, limited interviews, on-demand content. Okay, see what else. Anyone else? Photos for marketing, photos, limited video interviews, recorded sessions. So we're already capturing some of that content. Testimonials about the meeting, that's great. Thanks, Julie. So there's lots of potential, right, to capture that content. But how do you know what's valuable and what's not? So our digital strategy, which you'll see on the screen, the guide helps you build a framework to know what to capture. What this does is this helps ensure that your content calendar is going to meet your objectives, including member engagement, value to drive recruitment and revenue, and that FOMO, that fear of missing out for those members or non-members who want to come to future events. So how do you design it? Well, we're going to share our digital strategy guide with you after to help you decide what you already have, what's needed and what's wanted, and for you to build a team to capture that content at your event to be used after. Again, looking at the slide, the most important part of the slide, I would say, is the member value bit, because if whatever you're capturing doesn't have member value, you probably don't need it. If it does, then there's a likely that you can provide revenue or sponsorship around it, because if members love it, then sponsors want to be a part of it. So continue to have that thought process in your mind of where is this intrinsic member value live? So we've looked at the strategy kind of at a very high level. Let's drill down a little bit and get into some particulars. So being with the event itself, by pre-selling that sponsorship for your event, the initial revenue that you're going to generate is going to help offset, and in some cases even cover, the cost of the content and creation during the event. So funding through sponsorship, exhibitors, your members are already used to that. So when it comes to seeing sponsorship in and around your content, your members are already used to it, and to a degree, they're going to expect it now. And pre-selling the solutions is something that's comfortable for all involved. It helps you generate that additional revenue that we've talked about. Plus, it adds member value, and then you can scale your team appropriately. So let's talk about content now. Well, let's talk about more specifically what parent content is. So parent content or learnings, right? That main content at your annual event is where you draw all your additional revenue and leverage for your content calendar for the year. So a great example of this would be your keynote. By capturing your keynote, you can provide on-demand content for it after when the event's over. You can also create additional content from it, like a thought leadership video, transcriptions for articles, white pages, blogs. Your audio can be used for animated explainers or even built into your podcast. So lots and lots of value there. So both your parent content and your secondary content can be sources of revenue. And now you're maximizing this and you're multiplying it, all while creating really, really strong member value. So you've got this parent content and all this additional content, and now you can leverage this right into a library of content, including, the keynotes can live in your LMS. You've got speaker, experts, member interviews. You've got some member insights while you're there. You've touched on your pillar topics. You've got podcast content if you want. So lots and lots of information and strong member value. But let's get a little more specific here, and let's look what you might want to pre-sell at your event, which can generate that initial revenue and help you gather that parent content. So you can see right away some examples that we've provided, pre-event content. Right, in a case like this, you've got, let's see if this guy plays. So here's a, your hype video, your intro video to get everyone kind of interested, get them leaning in. Let's see here. We've also got this guy here, which is your daily recaps. This is a great revenue generator, which can hit the highlights of your day. These daily recaps can handle one or more sponsors. In this case, we've just picked one with one. But again, this is a great way to generate revenue, right? Create really strong member engagement, and this can run at your event as well as online on your social media channels as well. As well as your look lives. So here's a great example of a look live that we did with MHI. So again, this is an exclusive sponsorship for that individual association. So this gives them a great platform to talk about what it is that they're there for. That guy's got a little bit of an error there. So anyways, so using those deliverables and sending a 5-person crew to accomplish this, the estimated budget is going to be around $40K with an estimated revenue around 33. This budget is going to allow you to capture content not only at your event, right, but that parent content for post-event. And at 33K, we're already getting really, really close to seeing this whole thing become cost neutral. And again, that budget will fluctuate based on whatever your rate card is. And so keep in mind, we do have clients that year in and year out are doing this and seeing net positive results and revenues. So start small. If you can cover your costs, great. And then as you build on that, that's where that additional revenue can come from. So with what we presented to you, at the end, you could see potentially 50 pieces of content from your event. So you're going to have your keynote sessions. You're going to have your podcasts that you can create from the content at your keynotes. You could see 24 member insights or testimonial videos. You can create some micro-learning content from your keynotes. So lots and lots of rich content, all from being there from that parent content. And then you gathered enough to produce a content calendar that gets delivered for the remainder of your year, creating really strong member engagement. So here's another example. Oh, there we go. This is an example here of content that we captured at the event that then we used afterwards. This will play. We can share those links out with you after. All right, so there's also additional content that you can create that's really revenue friendly beyond what we touched on in the first couple of slides. Thought leadership videos, product service videos, again, pre-recorded video podcasts. Well, you've got all those key players there. That's another great way to really maximize that time and that space. So now we've taken into consideration the budget for creating that additional content that we just talked about, as well as some modest revenue, right, created from the previous content. Now, depending on what you charge for your sponsorship, the estimated revenue could be potentially higher, but as I mentioned, we want to just keep this really modest. So, with that in mind, you've already now crossed this threshold into being an association that's creating member value and revenue from your event and the content from it. There you go. And adding in the total budget for your content captured at the event, as well as the creation of the event content, as well as the post-event content, you can see that with that previous revenue structure we already mentioned, you have generated now over 22 or over 20K in revenue. And that's just the revenue part. You also have a robust content calendar, right? That's going to create member value and delight. It's going to positively impact your website. It's providing a platform for your sponsors to connect with your members, which keeps them happy. Plus, the ad event content is going to help grow your audience moving forward. All these have a net positive value. So I can tell you how beneficial something like this is, but it's much better to hear it from our clients. So we reached out to Kara Miller at MHI. She gave us a nice little testimonial. The too long didn't read version is MHI really understands the importance of the event content, how it helps generate member value and revenue, and how we work with them to make it easy. So to wrap up, we've identified the two of the biggest challenges that we feel associations are facing: creating great content. Remember, if your website doesn't have really great content that your members want to watch, find valuable, beneficial, they're going to wonder why they're staying. And budget and expertise, that lack of revenue and capacity is going to make it difficult for associations to have that right content for the right members at the right time. So what's the conclusion? Well, WorkerBee can guide you through this process and help you develop a digital strategy to maximize your event by using a framework for success to capture the content at your conference, using and attaching sponsorship to your at and post-event content, and helping you leverage that content all year long to help drive membership and revenue. So yeah, any questions?
Well, actually,
anybody has any questions?
Michelle just put a really good question in. So since we're at question period, I'll just answer it, but with voice instead of typing, if that's okay.
Great. Perfect.
The question was, I've seen organizations that produce content, post it, and never review it to see it if it's still relevant. They just leave it up and sell it forever. Are there any recommendations on how you should review the information for relevancy and make adjustments? We recommend an annual review, Michelle. It forces you to look at, it doesn't mean that you have to purge all of the information, but it forces you to look at that content and say, is it still relevant? Is it also in the right category? Is it member only content? Is it paid content? Is it free access for helping convert non-members into members? Is it doing what you expect it to do? And ideally, the analytics too should also assist you in that decision, not just the topic itself. And by looking at those things on an annual basis, then you can, decide what to clean out and what is kind of evergreen. Some content can last for multiple years and still have value, and whereas others are more time sensitive.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, those analytics are so important in today's age, right? And that's where that media platform helps you, is by telling you, you know what, no one's watching this, everyone's watching that. So then you can, self-govern and say, let's make this less, shorter, whatever, use the data to guide you. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, if you'd like to do a deeper dive on the program, myself, Dan Stevens, Marcus Late, we'd all be happy to connect with you. Feel free to send me an email. My email's on the screen, or visit our website, WorkerBee TV, and we'd love to chat.